In the early 90s, a young British woman in a bad and possibly abusive marriage filed for divorce. She was now a single mother with a baby and no job. Her mother had recently died, and she was alienated from her own father. She and her daughter were living on welfare. They were at risk of becoming homeless. She sank into a deep depression and at times was even suicidal. She felt, in her own words, like the biggest failure she knew. Today, her story is one that motivational speakers love to tell, because during those bitter and scary days between job hunting excursions and while her baby was napping, she would go over to her typewriter, yes, typewriter, and work on a novel. The idea had been bouncing around in her head for years. The novel was about a young wizard who discovers his magical heritage and goes to a special school for witchcraft and wizardry. Within 5 years, J.K. Rowling was a multi-millionaire. The problem with motivational speeches that tell stories like this is that they tend to ignore the special privileges, the hidden privileges that such people generally have. They make it seem like anybody, no matter what their circumstances, could write a best-selling novel and become a multi-millionaire. And of course, we know that's not true. In J.K. Rowling's case, although she truly didn't have financial resources, she was educated and she was white. The being educated part helped her write well, and the being white part helped her be taken seriously by publishers. But many of us with those same privileges, in her same shoes, might have said, sure, I have this idea for a novel, but this is clearly not the right time. I'm not ready yet. Let me get back on my feet first. Let me get a job first. Let me find a new partner first. Let me wait until my daughter is a little bit older so she requires a little bit less care. I'm not ready yet. But Rowling didn't do that. Instead, she used her dire situation to enable her to be ready. She used it as a catalyst. We learned about this concept of catalyst from Washuma's homily. I love this concept. A catalyst isn't, as we normally think, something that pushes you or prompts you or yells at you like a personal trainer to get up and do something. No, all a catalyst does is it lowers the energy required to move from one state to another. It doesn't scream at you to jump over the hurdle. It lowers the hurdle. If you doubt that this really can work, try this simple experiment. If you want your spouse or roommate to do some housework, don't harangue them. Put out the vacuum cleaner. Unwind the cord. Plug it into the wall so it's all set to go. Lower the energy required for them to move from the state of not vacuuming to the state of vacuuming. It's wizardry, really. That's a mundane example, but seriously, you can be a catalyst for all kinds of good in the world simply by making it easier for yourself or others to do the right thing. In Rowling's case, maybe counterintuitively, lowering the hurdle to her writing her novel entailed losing almost everything she had. She explains this in a commencement address at Harvard that she gave in 2008. She says, "Had I really succeeded at anything else, I might never have found the determination to succeed in the one area where I truly belonged. I was set free because my greatest fear had been realized, and I was still alive. I still had a daughter whom I adored, and I had an old typewriter and a big idea. And so rock bottom became a solid foundation on which I rebuilt my life." For Rowling to be ready, she had to let go of the image of herself as somebody with a husband and job and certain markers of social respectability. Letting go of that normative image was her catalyst to become something else. It plugged her into an outlet and allowed her energy to flow. Catalysts come in many different shapes and sizes, and they allow us to become ready for something for which we previously didn't feel ready. What worked for Rowling might not work for you or me, and vice versa. Sometimes, as in her situation, the catalyst comes from outside, unchosen, unwanted. We might call this a hostile catalyst. It can work, but it's not much fun. Sometimes, however, when we don't feel ready to do something that we have to do or want to do, we can create our own catalyst. Let's call it a benevolent catalyst. There's an art to this, I think, in which we first have to ask ourselves, what's getting in my way? Why does it feel like it would take so much energy to move from the state that I'm in to the state that I want to be in? We need to figure out the answer to that question first before we can know what we need to do to lower that energy requirement. Successful artists and athletes and activists and business people get really good at figuring this out. It's part of what makes them successful. They learn how to catalyze their own action. There's an underlying assumption to this approach that I think is really beautiful and also profoundly Unitarian Universalist. It's an assumption that says, I may not feel ready, but actually, in the deepest sense, I am ready. I was born ready. I'm here on this earth with unique gifts and resources and dignity, and the world needs me to do what I'm here to do. My deepest truth is I was born ready, but something is in my way. So let me figure out what that something is so that I can try to lower the hurdle. Then my energy will be free to flow wherever it's called to flow. It's also a practice of faith in the goodness and the power of others to assume the same about them. To say to another, you too were born ready. You too are here on this earth with unique gifts and resources and dignity, and the world needs you to do what you are here to do. If you're stuck, it's not because you don't have enough inside. It's because something is in your way. Let me help you, not by giving you something that you don't already have, but by helping to lower the hurdle. We can intentionally and faithfully serve as benevolent catalysts for one another. Sometimes, as Washuma taught us, our catalyst can be the realization that we don't have to go it alone, that whatever contribution we don't feel ready to make is only one of many iterative contributions. Sometimes our catalyst can just be information, as simple as where to vote or who to talk to about a job possibility. Sometimes when we're feeling really anxious about something, the best catalyst of all can be one that takes the pressure off. In the grand scheme of things, whatever it is that we don't feel ready for is probably not as important as we think it is. Apparently, J.K. Rowling didn't feel ready for her commencement address at Harvard that day. Despite all her success, she didn't feel ready to speak in front of so many people in such a prestigious setting. But from her life experience, she knew a trick. She knew a catalyst for becoming ready to give the powerful, moving speech that she ended up giving that day. Here's how she kicked it off. Delivering a commencement address is a great responsibility, or so I thought, until I cast my mind back to my own graduation. The commencement speaker that day was the distinguished British philosopher Baroness Mary Warnock. Reflecting on her speech has helped me enormously in writing this one, because it turns out that I can't remember a single word she said. This liberating discovery enables me to proceed without any fear that I might inadvertently influence you to abandon promising careers in business, the law, or politics for the giddy delights of becoming a gay wizard. It's a similar catalyst for my sermon writing to know that you will all probably forget everything I say by next week, if not by this afternoon. So thank you for that. So for those of you who have just joined the congregation this morning, Ellen and Geddes, Alexis, Michelle, and Laura, may First Unitarian serve as a catalyst for you. May we help lower your hurdle, take some pressure off, maybe put some pressure on, give you tools and information and inspiration. May we help you feel more ready to become the fullest expressions of yourselves. None of us can afford to wait until the perfect set of circumstances conspire, and we're perfectly prepared, and we've worked out every possible contingency. Sometimes we have to just get up and do whatever it is that we feel not ready to do. But good to know that here we don't have to do it alone, and that when one of us stumbles, there will be others to help clear the way.